Welcome back to Arsenal News TV, and today we're going to do the instant match reaction where Arsenal finished 1, Chelsea finished 2, and Arsenal suffered their loss at the Emirates with new signings, and there's a lot to be improved in my opinion. So from the first minute of the game, I think there was a lot of things to look out for. I think Chelsea started very well. I think it was a good opening to the game from Chelsea, who have had nearly all of the ball, and first half chance falls to Loftus-Cheek after nice work from Hudson-Odoi, but the midfielder's shot is blocked. And then we look at Arsenal exploiting down the left hand side and also looking at a threat down the left with Christian Pulisic not tracking Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. But there is something that we did realise from the first half, from the first minute, was the fact that there was a lot of energy with the game started with, and many people would have probably stated that it was probably a Premier League season opener with the way Chelsea and Arsenal took this game very seriously, but there were some moments where it was an important block from Pablo Mari after a great opportunity for the Blues, as Loftus-Cheek reclaims the ball in midfield and slips the pass to Timo Werner. The German is 1-on-1 with Pablo Mari and attempts to square to the unmarked HAVERTZ, but the Gunners defender makes a crucial block. But then Chelsea's dominance led them to score first after the Blues take the lead at the Emirates, and it's a repeat of the situation a few minutes ago where Pablo Mari made that beautiful block, but then Timo Werner collects the ball and has Kai Havertz in acres of space, and this time the German gets his pass right and his compatriot finishes expertly. And I think it was poor defending by Arsenal. The way they got conceded that goal was 1 against 2, one defender in the form of Pablo Mari. I think we can really see that we need new reinforcements in that defence, and that's why I think we brought in the new players such as Ben White, because Rob Holding was shocking in defence, and I think it starts to raise the questions, why have William Saliba been sold? But when it comes to this part of the first half, I think it was very poor defending from Arsenal, and that's something that we need to work on heavily in the first half. But then there was just a little bit of wastefulness from Timo Werner. I think he still needs to improve his confidence because the German forward needs to be better once again. He's put through by Hakim Ziyech and he approaches goal at pace, but his finish is poor and into the side netting, and he never looked confident. And that was pretty much nothing similar to pretty much the polar opposite to how Kai Havertz was playing in this game. And Arsenal did strike the post with Emil Smith-Rowe as the Gunners almost drew level, and Thomas Partey wins the ball in midfield and feeds it to Emil Smith-Rowe. He moves the ball onto his left foot and fires a low shot which strikes the post. But then there's some bad moments that straight away occur after that moment, and Thomas Partey stays down, and the Arsenal midfielder needed a couple of minutes of treatment after being challenged in midfield, but it did seem okay to continue at that moment at 36 minutes. But then in that moment of time at 39 minutes, Callum Hudson-Odoi was quick. He was quick feet from the Chelsea winger to get beyond Nicolas Pepe. Hudson-Odoi then shapes the shot towards the far corner, but it's a little high and goes over. But then Thomas Partey wasn't able to stay longer and he was replaced by Granit Xhaka. And then in terms of Chelsea, they did have some good chances with Hakim Ziyech, and it did end up the score being Arsenal 0 and Chelsea 1 at half time. And if I was to sum up the first half of the game, I think it was a really entertaining half at the Emirates. I think the two sides had their chances with Emil Smith-Rowe and Hakim Ziyech both hitting the post, but it was Kai Havertz who broke the deadlock with an ice cold finish after being teed up by Timo Werner. Chelsea looked good on the counter. Also have had some joy exploiting the space behind Kurt Zouma, but there is a lot that was required moving into the second half. And in the first half, I'll probably say that Arsenal looked very shaky defensively. I think there was moments where it did give me those vibes under the likes of Arsene Wenger, where we looked so shaky defensively, and then Arsene Wenger reverted back to that back three formation. And there were moments where I did think that we were playing under Unai Emery, because we were very awful in that defensive line, in my opinion. I think Rob Holding was too offensive rather than defensive, but Pablo Mari had too much to do with with an average centre-back like Rob Holding. Hopefully with the likes of Ben White coming through, he does make a difference. So moving into the second half, I think we can clearly see that Chelsea started very well. I think Chelsea were much better in the second half once again. They were much better than Arsenal. I think they looked like the team that wanted to make a difference. And they also had a good opportunity for Tammy Abraham, and Zappacosta fires the ball across goal, but the Blues forward couldn't make a clean connection. It was nearly meant to be 2-0 as Hakim Ziyech had a one-on-one opportunity. He tried to get past 5 players, but then Ben White cleared the line, and then Chelsea just looked very dominant. But then Arsenal got very lucky, in my opinion, because if it wasn't for Nicolas Pepe's brilliant cross and Granit Xhaka with a brilliant header, I think it would have been a very bad thrashing. I think it would have been, the mood would have been a bit different in the stadium. I think the players won't have been very well, and we can clearly see that Mikel Arteta has a good game against Tottenham next week at 2 p.m. because I think you can clearly see that there's a lot of things that needs to be improved, in my opinion, because Granit Xhaka is someone that looks very unlikely to be at the club, but it's very uncertain. We still don't know if he's going to remain as an Arsenal player or leave as an Arsenal player, but he had a good game, in my opinion. He had a good goal, and I think there's certain players that we can clearly see that needs to leave the club, as even though there were good moments throughout the game for Arsenal, I think there still needs to be a lot of things to improve, and this clearly shows us what happens after Arsenal can score, literally just 4 minutes after Arsenal's poor abilities in terms of the concentration. And I think when it comes to Granit Xhaka, he scores, but he should be probably let down a lot after he did equalise, and then after Tammy Abraham scores. And it's just a poor goal for Arsenal to concede, in my opinion. I think it's a sloppy pass across the pitch by Hector Bellerin. It goes straight to Tammy Abraham, and he slides the ball beyond Bernd Leno from the edge of the penalty area, and Chelsea are back ahead. And I think it's defensive errors once again, and Arsenal conceded sloppy errors today thanks to a combination of poor defensive positioning and individual errors, and Hector Bellerin's future at the club is already uncertain, and mistakes like that are unlikely to increase his price tag for potential suitors. And after that, to be honest, Arsenal did have their chances. They were close to an equaliser. Pepe was denied. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang was denied. But at the end, Arsenal 1, Chelsea 2. And it's all over for at the Emirates. And the Chelsea come away 2-1 winners against Arsenal. Kai Havertz puts the Blues ahead with a wonderful finish in the first half. But in the second period, Granit Xhaka brought the home side level with a header from nicolas pepe corner. Arsenal looked to be in the ascendancy at the point, only for an awful Hector Bellerin pass to present Tammy Abraham with a clear sight of goal that the Chelsea forward tucked in very well. And to be honest, it's typical Arsenal. I think moving into the new season, I think there's a lot of things we need to be watching out for. Maybe Arsenal could be a dominant force, but this is typical Arsenal, typical mistakes. But hopefully the players are not going to be with the squad. I think certain players to name is just Hector Bellerin, Kolasinac. These players, for me, aren't players that should be capable to be playing for this football club. I think they're awful, and if Mikel Arteta is going to be ruthless, I think it's time to get rid of Hector Bellerin, because even though he's done a lot in the 10 years that he's been at the club, there's a lot of things to be changed. But overall, let's see how we play in the next game versus Tottenham.